When the most feared pirate captain in Caribbean waters finds a girl bound to a sinking mast, left to die by her own blood, he discovers her brilliant mind could make him invincible, but her treacherous family will burn the entire ocean to destroy them both. In a world where every ally hides a blade and family means the deepest betrayal, survival demands trusting the one person the seas call monster. The rope burned through Catherine's wrists as the abandoned merchant ship creaked beneath the merciless Caribbean sun. 3 days she'd been tied to this rotting mast, watching the horizon blur between sea and sky while dehydration painted hallucinations across her vision. Her lips cracked and bleeding, throat too raw for screaming. She'd stopped counting the hours since her parents, those bastard smugglers who called themselves fishermen, had bound her here with sailors' knots she'd taught them herself. Barren curse, her father had spat, tightening the final knot. The sea can have what we cannot sell. Catherine had discovered their operation 3 weeks prior. Refugee children sold to Royal Navy officers for gold. Families torn apart in midnight raids disguised as rescue missions. When she threatened to expose them to the Brethren court, they'd smiled. That same night, they'd drugged her rum and brought her to this death trap, a half-sunken wreck drifting in the shipping lanes where no merchant would dare investigate. The black sail appeared like a phantom through her fevered haze. Catherine blinked, certain delirium had finally claimed her sanity. But the massive frigate cut through the water with predatory grace. The Crimson Revenge. Every soul in Port Royal whispered that name with appropriate terror. Its captain had built his legend on ships that never reached their destinations and enemies who took permanent swims in waters suddenly thick with sharks. "Captain! Survivor on the wreck!" A voice carried across the waves, sharp and commanding. Within minutes, boots thundered across the listing deck. Catherine forced her eyes open, struggling to focus on the figure approaching through the blinding sunlight. Tall, broad-shouldered, with long dark hair tied back and a beard that framed a face carved from violence and years at sea. His white shirt hung open, revealing bronzed skin marked with scars that told stories of survival. Gold chains glinted at his throat. The tricorn hat cast shadows across eyes that assessed her with the calculation of a man who'd learned to read threats in milliseconds. Captain Marcus Blackwood studied the girl bound to the mast with professional interest that slowly shifted to something darker. The knots were expert sailors' work, not the clumsy binding of common thugs. Her dress, though salt-stained and torn, showed quality fabric from Port Royal's merchant quarter. But her eyes held something that made him pause. Not fear, not gratitude, but cold calculation, even in the face of death. "Cut her down," he ordered his quartermaster, a scarred veteran named Pike who'd sailed with him for 15 years. "Carefully. Captain, could be a trap," Pike muttered, one hand on his cutlass. "Navy's been setting bait ships. Look at those knots, Pike. Whoever tied her knew what they were doing. This wasn't meant to be found." Marcus crouched as his men freed her wrists, catching her before she collapsed. Her skin burned with fever, pulse rapid and thready. "Get water. Fresh, not salted, and rum, the good bottle from my cabin." Catherine's vision swam as strong arms lifted her, carrying her across the gap between ships with efficiency that spoke of countless boarding actions. The pirate ship's deck was organized chaos men moving with military precision despite their ragged appearance. She registered the arsenal, cannons gleaming with fresh oil, weapons racked and ready, ammunition stored in weatherproof containers. This wasn't the disorganized rabble merchants feared in their nightmares. This was a floating fortress commanded by someone who understood warfare. "Drink, slowly." The captain's voice held unexpected gentleness as he pressed a tin cup to her lips. Fresh water, not the brackish swill she'd expected. "That's it. Not too fast or you'll lose it." Catherine managed 3 swallows before her stomach rebelled. She leaned back against the mainmast, studying the man who'd saved her life, or merely delayed her death. Captain Blackwood, the Crown had posted a bounty of £10,000 for his capture. They said he'd sunk 40 Royal Navy vessels in 5 years. They said his crew would die for him without question. They said he showed mercy only to those who surrendered immediately, and even then, not always. Who tied you to that wreck? His question came soft, almost conversational, but Catherine heard the steel beneath. My parents. The words scraped her raw throat like broken glass. Smugglers. They sell children to the Navy. I discovered their operation. They decided I was more profitable dead than talking. Something dangerous flickered in Blackwood's eyes. Recognition, perhaps, or remembrance of his own betrayals. Your parents are William and Margaret Chun, the fishermen who operate out of Tortuga's East Bay. Catherine's head snapped up, despite the dizziness. You know them? Every captain in these waters knows the Chuns. They've been selling information to Commander Hastings of the Royal Navy for 3 years. Ship movements, cargo manifests, safe harbors. Marcus's smile held no warmth. They're the reason 12 good crews met their end in Navy ambushes. What they are not known for is having children. They stole me from a Spanish merchant vessel when I was 8, raised me as theirs because... Catherine's voice cracked. Because an infertile girl had no value to sell. Until she became a liability. Marcus studied her with new interest. This broken girl knew shipping routes, naval tactics, and possessed information that could compromise some of the Caribbean's most valuable informants. The strategic part of his mind calculated possibilities, while another part, one he'd thought dead years. Agor responded to the fire he saw burning through her trauma. My quartermaster thinks you're Navy bait, he said bluntly. Are you? If I were Navy, they'd have tied better knots. These were meant to hold until I died of exposure. Catherine met his gaze without flinching. I can prove my value, Captain Blackwood. I know every route the Chun sold to Commander Hastings. I know which merchants pay protection to the Navy. I know where Hastings stations his patrol ships. Because I planned their routes myself, my parents forced me to, saying it was practice for when I had my own household to manage. The silence stretched taut as a ship's rigging before a storm. Marcus's crew watched with predatory interest, hands near weapons, waiting for their captain's judgment. One word from him and she'd feed the sharks before sunset. But Catherine saw something shift in his expression, the look of a chess player recognizing an unexpected piece on the board. Pike, prepare the guest cabin. Station a guard for her protection. Marcus stood, offering his hand to help her rise. Miss Chun, you've just become the most valuable cargo the Crimson Revenge has ever carried, which means your parents will burn every ship between here and Tortuga to ensure you never speak. Welcome to the most dangerous waters you'll ever navigate. As Catherine accepted his hand, feeling the calloused strength that had killed countless men, she knew with absolute certainty her parents wouldn't stop at burning ships. They'd unleash hell itself before they let her live long enough to destroy them. And somewhere in the distance, black smoke already rose from the horizon. The guest cabin aboard the Crimson Revenge mocked the term guest with its stark functionality. A narrow bunk bolted to the wall, a sea chest secured with iron chains, and a single porthole offering views of endless blue water. Catherine had been locked inside for 6 hours, while the ship sailed toward coordinates only Captain Blackwood knew. The guard outside her door, a massive Jamaican sailor called Tobias, had brought her salted pork and hardtack with the apologetic air of a man following orders he didn't particularly agree with. She was inventorying potential weapons. The tin cup could work as a bludgeon, the blanket as a garrote when footsteps approached. Heavy boots, confident stride, the subtle jingle of gold chains. The lock clicked open and Marcus Blackwood filled the doorway, carrying a leather satchel that seemed oddly out of place in his calloused hands. You're strategic even in captivity, he observed, nodding toward her hand positions. Good. You'll need that instinct where we're going. He set the satchel on the seed chest, extracting charts, a compass, and a sealed letter bearing a wax stamp Catherine recognized with cold dread, the British Royal Navy crest. This was intercepted 2 hours ago from a courier ship. Your parents work quickly. Catherine took the opened letter with trembling fingers. reading her father's familiar handwriting. Commander Hastings. The girl survived. Aboard Blackwood's vessel. She knows everything. We're calling in our debts. Coordinate joint action. The tunes will provide routing. You provide the firepower. 50-50 split on Blackwood's bounty and ship. Kill them both. Destroy any evidence. They're not just hunting me, Catherine whispered, horror dawning. They're using me as bait to deliver you to the Navy. And here I thought I was the predator in this scenario. Marcus's laugh held genuine amusement. Your parents have convinced Hastings that capturing me is worth their considerable intelligence network. The commander's been trying to sink the Crimson Revenge for 5 years. This is the opportunity he's been dreaming about. So, you'll throw me overboard and disappear. Smart. Catherine kept her voice steady, refusing to show the terror clawing at her chest. My death solves your problem. Except it doesn't. Marcus unrolled a chart, spreading it across the chest with weights at each corner. See, Miss Chun, your parents made one critical mistake. They told Hastings exactly what you know. Which means I know what they've been hiding from me. His finger traced routes marked in faded ink. These are the real patrol patterns. Not the ones they sold to. Other captains. The actual Navy positions. And this. He tapped a notation in the margin. This is proof they've been selling out their own supposed allies. Pirates, smugglers, even privateers with letters of marque, everyone's fair game for Chun Gold. Catherine studied the chart with growing comprehension. You want to use me as your strategist? Turn their information against them. I want to make your parents regret the day they decided betrayal was more profitable than loyalty. Marcus's eyes hardened to chips of flint. But first, you need to prove you're as valuable as you claim. Here's your test. We have 3 Navy frigates closing on our position from the northeast, 2 sloops from the southwest, and your parents' personal vessel, a heavily armed brigantine coming from the northwest. They've created a kill box designed to eliminate any escape route. We have 4 hours before we're in firing range. Show me how to survive this. Catherine's mind raced, analyzing the tactical situation with the cold precision that had kept her alive in her parents' house of lies. She studied the charts, noting water depths, prevailing winds, known reefs, and the positions Marcus had marked, based on the intercepted intelligence. Her parents had planned this perfectly, or so they thought. They're counting on you running south, she said slowly, fingers tracing potential routes. Open water? Room to maneuver? Your ship's superior speed. But the Navy's faster ships are positioned south. They want to drive you into a stern chase where numbers overwhelm you. Agreed, which is why I won't run. Marcus watched her with predatory interest. What else? Your parents know this area. They've been operating here for 20 years. Catherine's mind assembled pieces like a puzzle. But they don't know you've been modifying your ship. Pike told the guard I'm dangerous, but he also mentioned your new cannon mounts and reinforced hull. They're expecting the Crimson Revenge from 6 months ago, not what she is now. Marcus's smile turned wolf-like. Continue. The reef system here. Los Tres Hermanos has a narrow passage only accessible at high tide. My father tried it once and nearly sank. He's marked it as impassable. Catherine's fingers stabbed the chart. But you're insane enough to try it. The frigates draw too much water to follow. The sloops might attempt it, but they'd have to slow dramatically. Your parents' brigantine. She paused, memory surfacing. My father's first mate is his cousin Diego. Diego is terrified of shallow water after a keel hauling in. He'd argue against pursuing through the reef. And if I lead them into the reef passage during high tide, then anchor in the deep water beyond and wait. Marcus's eyes gleamed with dark anticipation. You become the hunter. They're forced to enter single file or sail around, adding hours to their pursuit. Either way, you choose the engagement terms. Catherine met his gaze. But there's a problem. The passage requires a pilot who knows the coral formations. One mistake and you'll rip your hull open. Can you pilot us through? The question hung between them like a drawn blade. Catherine thought of her parents' faces when they'd tied those knots, the casual cruelty in her father's eyes, her mother's cold calculation. She thought of the children they'd sold, the families destroyed, the blood money that had built their comfortable life. I can do more than pilot you through, Captain. I can position your ship so when they're forced to follow, you'll have clean broadside shots at vessels trapped in single file with no room to maneuver. Your 12-pounders will tear through their hulls before they can return effective fire. Sriya's voice turned to ice. I can help you destroy them all, but I want something in return. Marcus leaned back, arms crossed. Name it. When this is over, I want to watch my parents sink. I want them to know it was me who planned their destruction. I want them to understand that the worthless, barren girl they threw away became the weapon that ended them. Rage burned through Catherine's words like Greek fire. And then I want passage to somewhere they'll never find me. That's my price. The cabin fell silent except for the creak of timber and distant shouts from the crew. Marcus studied her with an expression she couldn't read. Respect, perhaps, or recognition of a kindred spirit forged in betrayal's furnace. Miss Chun, I think you and I are going to develop a very profitable partnership. He extended his hand. Welcome to the crew of the Crimson Revenge. Unofficially, of course. Pike would mutiny if I made it official without a vote. But between you and me, anyone who wants to watch their parents sink has the kind of vindictive creativity I appreciate in my strategists. Catherine clasped his hand, feeling the calloused strength that had commanded loyalty from killers and outlaws. One more thing, Captain. My parents have an informant on your crew. Maybe more than one. Someone told them you intercepted that courier. Marcus's expression didn't change, but something deadly flickered in his eyes. You're certain? I grew up watching them work. They never move without inside information. Someone aboard this ship is feeding them intelligence. Catherine squeezed his hand harder. Find the traitor, Captain, or your brilliant tactical victory becomes your funeral. The ship lurched suddenly, timbers groaning as the helmsman adjusted course. Through the porthole, Catherine saw the crew scrambling to stations, sails being trimmed with practiced efficiency. Somewhere ahead, Los Tres Hermanos waited with its maze of coral death. And beyond that, her parents sailed into a trap built from their own treachery. Marcus released her hand, his smile promising violence. Then we'd better make sure their funeral happens first. Get some rest, strategist. In 3 hours, you'll pilot us through hell itself. And afterward, his eyes gleamed with dark promise. Afterward, we'll show the Caribbean what happens to those who betray their own blood. As he left, locking the door behind him, Catherine pressed her face to the porthole. In the distance, she could see multiple sails converging like wolves closing on wounded prey. Her parents thought they'd trapped the legendary Captain Blackwood. They had no idea they'd given him the one weapon that could destroy them, their own daughter. Burning with 5 years of rage and possessed of an intimate knowledge of exactly how they thought. The Crimson Revenge cut through the waves toward the reef, and Catherine smiled for the first time in days. Not a smile of joy, but the cold satisfaction of a chess player seeing checkmate 10 moves before her opponent. Her parents had taught her strategy, after all. They should have known better than to leave her alive to use it against them. The coral formations of Los Tres Hermanos rose from the crystalline water like the bones of drowned giants, their jagged peaks breaking the surface in patterns that spelled death for any ship's captain foolish enough to navigate them without intimate knowledge. Catherine stood at the bow beside Captain Blackwood, one hand gripping the rail while the other pointed to barely visible dark patches beneath the turquoise water that marked the navigable channel. 2 points starboard. There, see that darker shadow? That's the passage. Hold steady until you see the white sand patch, then hard to port. Her voice carried across the deck with unexpected authority, for someone who'd been dying of exposure 24 hours earlier. The helmsman responded immediately, and the massive frigate responded with surprising grace. Behind them, 3 Navy frigates had slowed to a crawl, their captains unwilling to risk the reef system that had claimed a dozen ships over the years. The 2 sloops, however, had committed to the pursuit, or shallower drafts, allowing them to navigate waters that would gut larger vessels. Your parents' brigantine is holding position outside the reef, Pike reported from his station near the mainmast. Spyglass trained on their pursuers. Waiting to see if we make it through, most likely. Smart bastards. My father never takes unnecessary risks, Catherine replied, eyes scanning the water ahead. He'll wait for the Navy to do his killing, then swoop in to collect the bounty and claim credit. That's always been his whale. Others bleed while he profits, she pointed urgently. Now, hard to port. There's a coral head 3 feet below the surface directly ahead. The ship heeled sharply as the helmsman threw his weight against the wheel. The crew scrambled to adjust the sails, years of discipline evident in their synchronized movements. The Crimson Revenge slid past the hidden coral with less than a foot of clearance, her hull groaning but holding firm against the treacherous currents. How much farther to deep water? Marcus asked quietly, his body tense with the controlled energy of a man used to action who'd been forced into 3 minutes at this speed. But Captain, Catherine's voice dropped so only he could hear. I've been watching your crew. Your bosun, the one with the scarred face called Red Tom. He's been signaling with that polished mirror in his pocket every time we change course. Small flashes that could be sunlight reflection, except they're timed perfectly with our maneuvers. Marcus's expression remained neutral, but his hand moved subtly to the pistol at his belt. You're certain? I watched my parents use that exact technique for 3 years. Mirror signals to ships outside direct visual range. He's reporting our position through the reef. Catherine's jaw tightened, which means someone's receiving those signals and passing them to the pursuit ships. Your parents probably promised him a fortune to betray you. They're very good at finding what each person values most and exploiting it. Red Tom's been with me for 4 years. Saved my life during the Santo Domingo raid. Marcus's voice held no emotion, but Catherine saw the muscle jumping in his jaw. Pike, take 3 men and relieve Red Tom of watch duty. Tell him the captain wants to see him in the cabin immediately. Be cordial about it. Pike's eyes narrowed with sudden understanding. He barked orders, and within seconds, 4 pirates surrounded the bosun with casual efficiency that spoke of long practice. Red Tom's face went pale as he realized he'd been marked, but he allowed himself to be escorted below decks without resistance. Smart man resistance on a pirate ship meant an immediate swim with weights tied to your ankles. We're through! Deep water ahead! The lookout's cry echoed across the deck as the Crimson Revenge burst from the reef passage into the sheltered bay beyond. As Catherine had predicted, the high walls of coral created a natural kill zone. A natural kill zone, any ship following through the narrow passage would emerge in single file. Unable to maneuver, perfect targets for a ship of war positioned in the deeper water. Drop anchor. Gun crews to stations. Load chain shot and bar shot. I want those masts down, not the hulls. Marcus's commands cracked like pistol fire. Marines to fighting tops with muskets. Prepare fire arrows. This is going to be bloody, boys, but they're bringing us a fortune in prize money wrapped in Royal Navy paint. The crew exploded into action with the violence and precision of men who'd done this dozens of times. Cannon ports open like the eyes of a predator. Gun barrels run out with iron wheels shrieking. The ship's guns were unusual instead of the standard arrangement. Blackwood had mounted additional cannons in elevated positions, giving him superior firing angles against ships trapped at waterline. Catherine recognized the modification as borderline genius. Her father would never have anticipated it. The first sloop is entering the passage, Pike called from his position. British colors, 12 guns, trying to run it at speed. Let them commit, Marcus ordered coldly. Wait until they're 3/4 through with no room to turn. Then show them why the Crimson Revenge is feared in every port from Barbados to Cuba. Catherine watched with morbid fascination as the Navy sloop HMS Swallow, according to the name barely visible on her bow, threaded through the coral maze. The British captain was skilled. She'd give him that. His ship moved with precision through waters that had claimed better vessels. But skill only mattered until you sailed into a perfectly prepared ambush, Fire as she bears. Marcus's roar coincided with the Swallow emerging into the bay. Her captain's face visible on the quarterdeck, showing shock as he realized his tactical error. The world exploded into thunder and smoke. The Crimson Revenge's broadside tore across the water with devastating precision. Chain shot. 2 cannonballs connected by chain that spun through the air like a horizontal guillotine shredded the Swallow's rigging. Her mainmast toppled with the sound of breaking bones dragging sails and lines into a tangled death trap. Bar shot followed, iron bars tumbling end over end to smash through her hull at the waterline. The British ship staggered like a boxer taking a surprise punch, her forward momentum carrying her directly into the Crimson Revenge's second broadside. This time, regular shot punched through her gun ports and across her deck, turning weapons crews into corpses and wood splinters into lethal shrapnel. Men screamed. Officers shouted contradictory orders. And somewhere in the chaos, the Swallow's powder magazine went up like a volcano. The explosion sent a pillar of flame and debris climbing into the blue Caribbean sky. Catherine flinched despite herself, the sheer destructive power turning her theoretical strategy into visceral reality. Men died in that fireball, sailors following orders, doing their duty, never knowing they'd been sold to a pirate trap by corrupt commanders making deals with smugglers. Second sloop entering the passage. Pike's voice cut through the smoke. She's seen what happened to the Swallow, trying to back sails. Can't be done in that channel with the current working against her, Catherine said quietly, watching the second Navy vessel struggle. She's committed. Captain, they'll try to fire as they emerge. Guns already loaded and ready. Position us 10 degrees to starboard. Make them adjust their aim while you have clean shots. Marcus glanced at her with something approaching respect. You heard the lady. Helm, 10 degrees starboard. Gun crews, rapid fire. I want that ship sitting on the bottom before she can get off 3 shots. The Crimson Revenge adjusted position with disciplined efficiency. The second sloop HMS Pelican burst from the passage with guns already blazing. But Catherine's prediction proved accurate. Their shots passed through where the pirate ship had been moments before, splashing harmlessly into the bay. The return fire, however, carved through the Pelican's hull like an axe through rotted wood. Within 5 minutes, the second Royal Navy ship was settling into the coral-clear water, her crew abandoning ship in boats and swimming for the reef. Marcus ordered ceasefire, allowing the survivors to escape. We're not murderers, he said, though whether he spoke to his crew or himself remained unclear. They were doing their duty. We just do it better. Catherine's attention fixed on the mouth of the reef passage, where her parents' brigantine had finally committed. The ship flew no colors, neither navy nor pirate, the mark of smugglers who served all sides and none. She could see her father on the quarterdeck, his familiar profile etched against the sky. After 15 years of beatings disguised as discipline, manipulation wrapped in false affection, and betrayal masked as family, she was about to watch him sail into his own grave. Captain, she said quietly, her voice steady despite the rage burning in her chest. That brigantine is faster than it looks. My father had her hull coppered last year with money from selling out the Brethren Court. If you want to catch him, you'll need to damage his rigging before he can turn. Range? Marcus asked Pike. 700 yards and closing. Just coming into long gun range. Load the bow chasers with your finest powder. I want those shots to count. Marcus moved to stand beside Catherine, his presence solid and oddly comforting amid the smoke and destruction. This is your moment, strategist. Where do I aim to hurt them most? Catherine studied her father's ship with eyes that had watched him prepare it for years, learning every modification, every strength, every weakness he thought no one noticed. Forward mast, starboard side. He reinforced the port rigging last month, but ran out of money before finishing the starboard. One good hit there, and his mainsail configuration collapses. He'll lose half his speed and maneuverability. You're condemning your own blood, Marcus observed, though without judgment. They stopped being my blood the moment they tied those knots. Catherine's voice could have frozen seawater. Fire when ready, Captain. Show them what betrayal costs. The bow chasers roared, their longer barrels providing accuracy at range that standard broadsides couldn't match. Catherine held her breath, watching the iron shot arc across the pristine bay in twin streaks of death. The first missed by inches, splashing just ahead of the brigantine's bow. But the second struck exactly where she'd predicted, smashing through the reinforced section of rigging and sending the forward mast toppling like a cut tree. Through Marcus's spyglass, which he'd handed her without being asked, Catherine watched her father's face contort with rage and disbelief as his ship staggered. She saw him screaming, "Orders!" Saw the crew scrambling desperately to save the sail configuration. Saw her mother emerge from below decks with that calculating expression Catherine knew too well. "They're turning to run!" Pike shouted, trying to make it back through the passage. "They won't make it," Catherine said with certainty. "Not with that damage and the current against them. They'll ground on the reef or surrender. Either way." She lowered the spyglass, meeting Marcus's eyes. "Either way, this ends today. One way or another, the Chune's operation is finished." Marcus studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "You've earned your place on this deck, Miss Chun. Whatever happens next, remember that." He raised his voice to carry across the ship. "All hands, prepare to board. Anyone who surrenders goes into boats unharmed. Anyone who fights feeds the sharks. Let's finish this." As the Crimson Revenge surged forward, her crew howling like wolves scenting blood, Catherine gripped the rail and watched her past sail toward its inevitable destruction. She felt no joy, no satisfaction, only the cold emptiness of a debt finally coming due. Her parents had built their empire on betrayal and blood money. Now the bill was being presented and payment would be extracted in full. Behind them, smoke from the burning Navy ships rose like funeral pyres. Ahead, her father's crippled brigantine struggled toward safety it would never reach. And somewhere in the wreckage of her childhood, the girl who'd been tied to a mast and left to die finally became the woman who would watch her betrayers sink beneath waves that kept all secrets. The Crimson Revenge cut through the water like vengeance made manifest, and Catherine smiled the cold smile of a tactician watching her perfect plan unfold exactly as designed. Red Tom sat bound to the mainmast, blood trickling from his split lip. Marcus Blackwood stood before him while Catherine watched from the quarterdeck beside Pike. The traitor's confession had taken minutes under persuasive. Questioning the Chunes promised £5,000 and safe passage to the American colonies. "There's 3 more, Red Tom gasped. "Diego Cruz, the carpenter's mate, and 2 others you haven't found. The Chunes built this network for months, Captain. They've been planning your destruction since they heard you operated these waters." Marcus's jaw tightened. 3 more traitors meant every strategy had been compromised. Her parents had infested his crew like rot in timber. "Pike, secure Cruz quietly. I want the others thinking they're hidden." Marcus addressed his assembled crew with absolute authority. The Chunes declared war on every man aboard this vessel. They bought traitors, fed us to the Navy, and now sail toward Nassau to alert bounty hunters we're wounded prey. So we're going to Nassau first. We'll set our own trap and watch their operation burn. 70 loyal throats growled approval. These men followed Blackwood through hell, shared prize money fairly, received more respect than Navy service offered. The Chunes violated the oldest code: never sell out your own kind. "Miss Chune, come here," Marcus called up to her. Catherine descended carefully, aware of every eye tracking her movement. She was the daughter of their enemies. Yet she'd given them victory against impossible odds and revealed traitors Marcus never suspected. "This woman has no obligation to help us," Marcus announced, his hand resting protectively on Catherine's shoulder. "She could have stayed silent about traitors, let us sail into ambushes, secured her escape. Instead, she stands with this crew against her own parents. The Chunes abandoned her to die, but we gave her life. Now, she offers vengeance. I say she's earned our trust." Pike stepped forward, gap-toothed grin splitting his scarred face. The last sank 2 Navy ships and her father's brigantine with charts and timing alone. She's got more salt than half the cowards calling themselves sailors. I say she stays. Agreement rippled through the assembly. Catherine felt something unfamiliar tighten in her chest, acceptance, belonging to something larger than survival. These killers and thieves lived by a code her parents mocked: loyalty to those who earned it, death to those who betrayed it. Then it settled. Marcus squeezed her shoulder before releasing. Navigator, plot course for Nassau, best speed, gun crews, repair damage, and prepare for urban warfare. Pike, bring me those remaining traitors. I want names, contacts, every detail of the Chun network. As the crew dispersed, Marcus guided Catherine toward his cabin, handed her back. Aboard a pirate ship, the captain's personal space was sacred. Being invited inside marked rare trust. The cabin held organized chaos, charts weighted at corners, locked weapons cabinet, navigation books, and a small shrine worn smooth by desperate prayers. Marcus poured rum into tin cups, handing her one without asking. "Your parents will know we're coming," he said bluntly. "They'll have Nassau prepared, bought officials, hired muscle, possibly Royal Navy protection. Walking into that port could be suicide." "Absolutely suicide," Catherine agreed, welcoming the rum's burn, "which is why they won't expect it. My father thinks you're a survivor, not a warrior. He expects you to run, hide, rebuild somewhere remote. He cannot conceive of attacking into strength rather than fleeing to safety. It's his fundamental weakness." Marcus studied her with calculating eyes. "What do you value, Catherine Chun? What drives a woman to destroy her own blood?" "Justice and freedom. My parents stole 15 years, used me as unpaid labor while selling other children into. They taught me strategy to profit from human misery, then tried murdering me when I threatened their empire. I don't want revenge, Cap. I want reckoning. I want them facing consequences for every child sold, every family destroyed, every soul traded for gold." Something shifted in Marcus's expression, recognition of a kindred spirit shaped by similar betrayals. "My father was a Royal Navy captain, disciplined, honorable, everything a British officer should be. When I was 16, I discovered he'd been embezzling crew wages, buying estates while sailors starved. I reported him to the Admiralty. They investigated, then quietly reassigned him to a comfortable Jamaica post. 2 weeks later, my mother and sister died in a fire-ruled accidental. I've been running from that kind of justice since." Catherine understood why Marcus Blackwood became the Caribbean's most feared pirate, not from cruelty, but from absolute refusal to accept a world where power protected the guilty and crushed the honest. "Then we share something, Captain. We both learned justice requires taking it yourself." She raised her cup. "To Nassau. To vengeance. To making damn sure that Chuns understand exactly what monster they created when they tied me to that mast." Marcus touched his cup to hers, metallic ring echoing. "To Nassau. And to the daughter about to teach her parents the most expensive lesson they'll ever learn." Nassau Harbor stank of rotting fish, cheap rum, and desperation masquerading as freedom. Catherine stood beside Marcus, watching longboats ferry supplies between ships in a maritime ballet operating beyond British law for decades. "Your parents' network is active," Pike reported, returning from reconnaissance disguised as a drunken sailor. "Every tavern has bounty hunters asking about us. 15,000 pounds for you, Captain. 5,000 for the girl. Dead or alive, though the Chuns pay bonus for alive. They want her brought to them personally." Catherine's stomach twisted. "They want me alive to make an example. Public execution with enough witnesses to discourage anyone threatening their operation. It's how they maintain control, through fear and spectacle. Then let's give them a spectacle." Marcus's smile promised violence. "How many men do they have?" 20 hired guns identified, plus bribed locals. "Commander Hastings has 2 ships in harbor under neutral flags, but naval protocol means he can't move without provocation. The Navy is predictable. My parents aren't." Catherine shook her head firmly. "They'll have contingencies, backup plans, escape routes we haven't considered." We need to force them into making the first move, revealing their complete network before we strike. You want to use yourself as bait? Marcus said flatly. Absolutely not. It's the only way to draw them out completely. They won't risk exposing their full operation unless certain of success. Catherine turned to face him, jaw set with determination. I walk into the Dragon's Head Tavern, their primary meeting location, and announce myself. Every informant, hired gun, corrupt official converges there. Then you surround the building and burn their entire network in one action. You'll be outnumbered 20-1 with no backup, then I die knowing I destroyed them first. Better than dying tied to a mast. Catherine's voice hardened. This is my choice, Captain. My blood, my vengeance, my risk. Marcus finally conceded after 10 minutes of argument, though his expression promised he'd be stationed close enough to intervene. They spent 2 hours planning exit routes, signal protocols, backup positions, contingencies. Catherine changed into simple clothes Pike acquired, a dress that could belong to any port worker's daughter. As sunset painted Nassau's buildings in blood and gold, Catherine walked alone toward the Dragon's Head. Behind her, hidden in shadows and rooftop, Marcus's entire crew waited with weapons ready and fury barely contained. The tavern interior matched expectations. Dim lighting, rough clientele, pervasive smell of violence waiting to happen. Catherine pushed through the crowd to the bar, heart hammering but face calm. The barkeep looked her over with professional assessment. I need to speak with William and Margaret Chun, she announced loud enough to carry across the suddenly silent room. Tell them their daughter has returned to settle accounts. The reaction was instantaneous. 3 men blocked exits, 2 positioned behind her. The barkeep's hand disappeared below the counter, undoubtedly signaling someone. Well. Her mother's voice cut through tension like a blade. Margaret Chun emerged from private rooms, immaculate despite squalid surroundings, showing no maternal recognition. The ungrateful wretch returns. Catherine, you've caused considerable expense. Ships sunk, operations compromised, reputations damaged. Your father is most displeased. Where is the coward? Catherine demanded. Hiding behind hired guns and his wife's skirts as usual. Margaret's smile turned arctic. William is concluding business with Commander Hastings. Arrangements for your transfer to Royal Navy custody, followed by a tragic accident at sea. Too many questions if you simply disappear in Nassau. Much cleaner if the Navy takes responsibility. She gestured at surrounding men. But first, you'll answer questions about Captain Blackwood's operations, where he keeps charts, gold, crew rosters. Then perhaps we'll make your end quick instead of protracted. Catherine laughed harshly. You think I came alone? You think the most dangerous pirate in Caribbean waters would let me walk into your nest unprotected? She raised her voice. Tell me, Mother, how many hired guns stay loyal when they realize you've led them into an ambush? The tavern exploded into chaos. Marcus's crew burst through every door and window simultaneously, weapons drawn, faces painted with battle fury. Hired guns scattered, caught between Cheen gold and survival instinct. Margaret Cheen's composure cracked as she realized the trap closed around her, not her daughter. Take her alive. Marcus's roar cut through fighting. The Chuns answer for their crimes. Catherine dove behind the bar as pistol fire erupted, splinters exploding, men screaming. Through chaos, she saw her mother trying to escape through a hidden panel. Saw Marcus intercept her brutally. Saw justice arriving on violence's wings. But something was wrong. The fighting was too coordinated on the Chun side, hired guns falling back in organized retreat rather than panicked flight. Then Catherine saw him, her father, emerging from the back with Commander Hastings and 20 armed Marines, naval uniforms crisp and bayonets gleaming. Surprise! Daughter William Chun called over the din. Did you think we wouldn't prepare for Blackwood's theatrical intervention? The Navy has full authorization to arrest every pirate here. Your captain's legend ends tonight, and you'll watch before we deliver you both to Port Royal gallows. The trap had been reversed. As Royal Marines formed firing lines with mechanical precision, Catherine realized with sick certainty her parents had planned 3 moves ahead, exactly as they'd taught her. The question was whether Marcus could improvise 4 moves beyond that, or whether this was where both their stories ended in blood and betrayal. The standoff lasted exactly 4 heartbeats before Marcus Blackwood laughed, a sound so unexpected that even Commander Hastings hesitated. Catherine watched as the pirate captain holstered his weapons with theatrical calm, hands raised in apparent surrender while his crew maintained defensive position. "Commander Hastings, the Shion's pet naval officer?" Marcus's voice carried clear contempt. "Tell me, does the Admiralty know you've been accepting bribes from smugglers for 3 years, or that you've falsified reports about pirate activity to justify keeping naval resources here?" Hastings's face went purple. "Lies from a condemned criminal." "Marines, prepare to fire if you wish," Marcus interrupted smoothly. "But first, Commander, perhaps you should know this tavern is currently surrounded by representatives of the Brethren Court, the Jamaica Trading Company, and 3 newspaper correspondents from London fascinated by Royal Navy corruption." "Oh. And there's the small matter of documents currently being delivered to the Admiralty in Kingston, detailed accounts of every payment, every falsified report, every child the Cheens sold while you looked away for gold." The temperature dropped 10 degrees. William Chune's confident expression flickered with uncertainty. Margaret Chun went pale, calculating odds suddenly shifting against her. Commander Hastings looked like a man watching his career burn. "You're bluffing!" William spat. "You have no evidence. I have read Tom's complete confession, recorded and witnessed by 3 neutral captains. I have your own ledgers, stolen from your ship before I sank it. I have testimony from 15 families whose children you sold. And I have your daughter, who knows every detail of your operation and is willing to testify to anyone who'll listen." Catherine rose from behind the bar, dress stained with rum, but spines. "Hello, Father. Hello, Mother. I believe we have unfinished business regarding attempted murder, child trafficking, and treason against the Brethren Court, the penalty for which, according to the Pirate Code, is death." "You ungrateful little—" Margaret started forward before Pike materialized between them, cutlass drawn and expression promising violence. "The Brethren Court has already voted," Marcus continued, voice hard as iron. "The Chunes are stripped of all protection, all safe harbors, all trading rights. Every pirate from here to Barbados has authorization to claim their heads for bounty. As for you, Commander Hastings, your choice is simple. Arrest us and face court-martial when those documents reach Kingston. Or arrest the Chunes for trafficking and claim credit for bringing down the Caribbean's most extensive smuggling operation." Silence stretched taut as maximum tension rigging. Hastings looked between Marcus, the Chunes, and his Marines, calculations visible. He was a corrupt officer, yes, but also a survivor. And survivors knew when the wind had shifted irrevocably. "Marines," Hastings said slowly, voice like grinding millstones. "Arrest William and Margaret Chune on charges of smuggling, trafficking, and conspiracy against Crown interests. Transport them to Port Royal for trial." "You can't." William lunged forward, only to be seized by Marine. "We had an agreement. We paid you, you paid me to look away from piracy, not child trafficking. There's a difference." Hastings's voice held no warmth, only cold pragmatism. "Captain Blackwood, you have 1 hour to leave Nassau before I remember your wanted criminals. Consider it professional courtesy." Marcus sketched a mocking bow. "Your mercy overwhelms me, Commander." "Come, Miss Chun. I believe we've concluded our business here." Catherine walked past her parents without looking, refusing to give them even the satisfaction of, but Williams's voice followed. "This isn't over, you barren curse. We'll escape. We'll find you. You already made me regret," Catherine said quietly, finally turning. "Regret that I wasted 15 years hoping you might love me. But I'm done regretting. You're going to hang in Port Royal, and I'm going to be too far away to care. Enjoy the gallows, Father." She walked out into Nassau's warm night, Marcus at her side and his crew forming protective escort. Behind them, her parents screamed threats and curses, voices growing fainter as Marines dragged them toward naval longboats. "Where will you go?" Marcus asked as they reached the docks. "I can provide passage anywhere, and enough gold to start fresh. You've earned it." Catherine looked at the Crimson Revenge waiting at anchor, black sails furled like folded wings. She thought about returning to land, to the world her parents showed her was built on lies. Then she thought about the past 3 days. Strategy. Battles. Standing on a ship's deck knowing she'd helped win impossible odds. "I want to stay," she said simply. "I want to learn navigation, gunnery, everything you'll teach me. I want to become the strategist the Brethren Court whispers about. And maybe I want to see if the monster of Caribbean waters is really the best man I've ever known." Marcus's smile started slow, then spread into genuine warmth. "The crew will need to vote. Pirate tradition. Though Pike's already campaigning in your favor, and after tonight, I suspect you'll be our most popular candidate ever." "And if they vote yes?" Catherine asked, heart suddenly pounding. "Then you sail with us. You fight with us. You share prize money equally and follow the code absolutely." Marcus extended his hand. "Welcome to the Crimson Revenge, strategist. May your charts be accurate and your aim be true." Catherine clasped his hand, calloused and strong and stained with blood. But those hands had saved her life, valued her mind over her bloodline, given her choice when the world offered only cages. As they walked toward the waiting longboat, she realized she was smiling, genuine anticipation of horizons yet to sail. The Caribbean waited with all its dangers and freedoms. And aboard the Crimson Revenge, a new legend was beginning.